slowing down is for it to kind of, the pressure to build up even more. I think we're going to probably see the military becoming more violent. I think we can expect to see more deaths. I think we can expect to see hear of more crackdowns, of more liberties to be taken away from the people in Myanmar. And ultimately, it's a war of attrition. Ultimately, who will outlast? Will the people be able to bear the, for want of a better word? In fact, I don't think there is a better word apart from the terrorism that the military are inflicting on the people of Myanmar. Or will the military eventually realize that they can't carry on and continue in the way that they are, and they have lost legitimacy? I honestly think that the only way that things can make a difference, or the only way that they will come to a resolution, is if and when there is more done by the international community. Now that's another prospect altogether. But so far as the issue being left to its own kind of conclusion it continues, I believe that the Myanmar military will just carry on being more and more violent, and I think we can expect to see more and more bloodshed, unfortunately more lives being lost this goes on.
Yes. Now, we've known for a very, very long time, where we've seen many years of military rule in Myanmar. And this time around, the question would be, would it be different? Are we seeing a different breed of revolutionaries in Myanmar at this point in time? Because we see the slogan often repeated, our revolution must win, and these are the people who are protesting. Are we seeing a new generation? Are we seeing a younger generation that obviously would be doing something different for the military to basically rethink, or even possibly looking at what the military has enjoyed for years and years in Myanmar? Anything different likely to come out?
I mean, I always think it's difficult to compare points in history to each other, because I think at each point in history, there are a different set of situations and circumstances which are particularly important. But obviously, that's what we as human beings, we naturally tend to do, is to look at other points in history and look at precedents, etc. But if you look in Burma and you say 1988 and you say 2007, the two most recent kind of revolutions, if you like, in both of those occasions, the force of majority reason for the protest were the opening up and basically the legitimacy of the NLD-led government, the NLD-led movement, and that's Suu Kyi's party. I think on this particular occasion, although that lobby and that amount of the protesters are probably in the majority supporting NLD and Suu Kyi, there are other supporters, there are other protesters, and I think that's what shines through on this particular occasion. The other supporters and protesters are other fringe minorities, other fringe kind of legitimate pleas. One is the ethnic people, right? So I think there's more ethnic community cohesion in this particular protest. Other things like, for example, even the different kind of sexualities of people. There's a large LGBTQ plus element of this particular protest, and I think all of that is driven by the younger generation being at the forefront of this. I think, of course, when we're looking at some of the people who have fallen, there's been probably more than 100 deaths so far. The vast majority of those people who have passed away at the brutal hands of the military have been younger people who are not necessarily NLD supporting protesters. And I think that's the major difference. The other thing I think possibly that might be different on this occasion as compared to other occasions is that the international community, although they mostly are still calling for Suu Kyi's release, are calling for something first and foremost. And the first and foremost is that the military must back. Whereas in other times, it's always been Suu Kyi must be released, democracy must come first. But on this occasion, the first and foremost call is for the military to back down and for the military to stop its violence. And I think that's also quite significant when you look at differences. The people of Myanmar don't want just Suu Kyi. They don't want just the NLD. They don't want to go back to what it was, a month and a half ago. They want to rewrite the constitution. And that's also very significant.
Well, certainly. Now, while all of this is playing out, as far as the Rohingya is concerned, where do the Rohingya fit into these, while these protests are taking place and these developments that have taken place in Myanmar?
So, if we talk strategically, first things first is in that particular region, in the Rakhine Arakan region, there hasn't really been that many protests. That's the first thing. There's not been this big expression of outpouring of emotion against the military, and that's largely because of Arakan army, which is within the region. There's also a civil war that's going on, and that army has already kind of made a peace deal with the Burmese military that there won't be any further kind of protests. The military themselves have gone to Rohingya-held villages and townships and tried to bribe them into silence and given them money and donations for their masajids and for the food, and said, look, you guys don't come out and protest against us. So that's the first thing. I think on a major scale, on a Myanmar scale, on a Burma scale, there is a growing acceptance that civil society, that the people of Myanmar have largely ignored the military's crimes against the Rohingya. And there is now an acceptance, first and foremost, and then secondly, maybe apologeticness that, we could have done more, we should have acknowledged what was going on. It's still not a majority opinion, mind, right? So the majority opinion doesn't change on a community because of 1 month of coup d'etat. We've got to remember that this military has been forcing this, one Burmanization, national, ethnic, religious identity upon 53 million people, particularly against the 1.5, 2 million Rohingya people for the past 60 years, right? So those opinions and that knowledge doesn't just change, flip reverse within a month. What does happen though, is that the majority of the people in Burma now recognize that the Burmese military, the Myanmar military, is not a force of good. It's not a protecting force. It is a force which will attack its own people. And as part of that, there is now a growing acceptance that the Rohingya are also their own people, part of Myanmar, part of Burma. And so long as that process continues, there can be ethnic reconciliation at some point. But I would be very, 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 careful. I wouldn't go around singing and saying that Burma's changed its, civil society makeup. I would say that these are small steps. And what would be the worst thing that could happen is if the military decide to back down and then we were just back to the position that we were in, 2 months ago with NLD kind of supported by a military government again. That would absolutely ruin everything for the Rohingya. What does need to happen for the Rohingya now for the positive future is for this full change in Burma.
Well, we'll see. Let's see what develops over a period of time. I'm sure from time to time, Mabrur, we will get regular updates for you. But for now, we thank you. We say Jazakallah to you for your time. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Wa alaikum assalam. Thank you very much.